In this video, we're going to talk about the type of treatments and their cost to remove xanthelasma. We're going to go and talk about the most expensive and the most invasive one that you should, by all costs, avoid. And it's not as if we just say it for the sake of saying it. It's because if you go and do your own research and compare the various type of treatments, you'll find out the same conclusions that we came to. That is to say, surgery, avoid it altogether. What does surgery mean for xanthelasma removal? Surgery means injecting lidocaine to make sure that your eyelid area cannot feel anything, and then with a scalpel actually chop off your xanthelasma. Why this must not be done any longer? It's simply because all the other treatments that are available and effective are not as invasive. And the problem about this invasive procedure, surgery to remove xanthelasma, is to say excision to remove xanthelasma, is that very likely is going to leave you scars. Not only that, but it's very invasive, and you've got the use of lidocaine, injectable lidocaine. So when you inject lidocaine, the risks go up. It's not as if you're going to lose your eyesight or anything of the sort. It's very unlikely that's going to happen. However, the risks associated to surgery are much higher than the risks associated to all the other types of treatments, which we'll explore in this video. So if somebody proposes you to go through surgery, run away. This is our advice. It's not as if we say it for the sake of saying it. If you don't believe us, please go do your own research. Look up on the internet, on YouTube or other ways, and look at how surgery is performed in order to remove xanthelasma, and compare it to all the other ways of removing xanthelasma which are effective, and you'll find out that it's actually not a good idea whatsoever. The other downside of surgery is the high cost. You really need to spend a lot of money for it, because you need to get a surgeon to do the procedure for you. You need to get a lidocaine injection in the area. You need to get the surgeon to do the procedure for you. They need to actually take time out to see you again throughout your recovery period. So all that has got a quite high cost. And if you just go and do the research or just watch this video, either or, you'll find out that surgery is by all means the worst possible solution for xanthelasma removal. It's not as if it's not going to work. It is going to work, but the risks of scarring and the high cost and the risks associated to surgery makes this sort of procedure absolutely a no-no for xanthelasma removal nowadays, because there's so many more effective ways to get your xanthelasma removed. Now, the option number 2, which is not the ones that we favor, is laser removal. Why do not we favor it? Laser removal, as we've made quite clear in other videos, is very expensive normally, depending on what part of the world you live in, especially if you live in Europe and the United States, because lasers are heavily regulated, and more so in 2020, and therefore, due to the high regulation of the devices themselves and the local regulation of these devices, especially in the UK. Say, for example, if you want to use a laser in a clinic in the UK, in many parts of the country, many councils force you to have a license, which you have to pay for thousands of pounds every year in order to maintain a laser which you're going to use on your clients. That does not apply to all the parts of the UK, but it does apply to, say, for example, Nottingham and Wales, and many parts of Wales, especially North Wales and other parts of the country in the UK. Very similar things apply in the United States and other parts of North America. Therefore, if somebody says we're going to use lasers, very likely they're going to charge an arm and a leg for it in the region of at least 2,000, 3,000 pounds or US dollars or euros, depending on where you are in Europe or in the United States, and depending on the regulation of lasers in that particular area where the clinic is based. So watch out for it, because it's just very expensive. It's not as if it carries the same risks as we talked about of surgery. However, it's very expensive, and as you know, xanthelasma will recur, very likely. So why would you want to spend loads of thousands in order to have your xanthelasma removed using lasers, and then a few months later then you find the xanthelasma grow back, or a few years later they will grow back and you have to find a better solution anyway. So you might as well find a better solution the first time around. Now, we're going to go and talk about the third solution, which is one of our favorites, which is the use of trichloroacetic acid. It's one of the best, simply because trichloroacetic acid is very, very effective in xanthelasma removal. It's not as if we just say it. It's been used throughout the world in several cosmetic clinics. There are 3 research papers that actually prove it, although research papers prove anything and everything, but it's very well documented that TCA at certain concentrations is extremely effective in removing your xanthelasma, and there's many people who tried it, even at home, which we do not recommend, and succeeded, and it's very inexpensive. TCA, however, if used in a cosmetic clinic, is much safer than used at home. Why? Because TCA is a type of cosmetic peel that does not forgive. What do I mean by that? The point is that if you're using TCA to remove your xanthelasma, you should use a neutralizer to stop its effects, because it's not as if once you put TCA on your xanthelasma or your skin, you just wipe it off, wash it off, and that's it. TCA, for some reason, unless you neutralize it properly, will start, it will keep working even after you have wiped it off and washed it off using water. So it will be there trying to be acidic, try to burn off your skin and the place where you put it on. So it's not as easily controllable as other type of cosmetic peels. This is the reason for us not to use it in our xanth remover anymore. And also the other reason for us not to use it in the xanth remover, as we've done in the beginning, is because the trichloroacetic acid in gel format does not last long. It's extremely difficult to make a TCA, a trichloroacetic acid gel, that lasts long enough, and therefore we abandoned it completely after its initial successes. Also, the other thing about trichloroacetic acid is when you put it on your upper eyelids, almost inevitably will leave you with huge swelling that are due to the application of TCA. And this swelling normally happens the day after you applied TCA on your upper eyelids, and you really look not at your best with swollen eyes. So this is a very, very good way of removing them. However, we would not recommend it you do it on your own at home. However, said that, many people have done it successful as well, and we've got in a few of our videos we actually show you a few examples of that. So watch out our channel, because is in there, and look it up on our xanthelasmaremoval.com website. Now, the fourth way, which is extremely effective, is the use of glycolic acid with vitamin A at high concentrations of glycolic acid, a high and a very low pH of glycolic acid. And the reason for it to have the xanth remover to be made out of glycolic acid and vitamin A is that it's been extremely effective. We've got also the money back guarantee on the xanth remover, which has got this formulation. If you want to know the ingredients, we published it on our xanthelasmaremoval.com website. Is that you're able against TCA, you're able to actually stop its ablative effects by wiping it off and rinsing it with water, and you do not get the same swelling that you get with TCA. So it is much safer. And also, although we recommend no contact with the eyes, when this formulation accidentally has been in contact with the eyes, nothing has really happened, but you should not put it in contact with the eyes. So glycolic acid is much more forgiving than TCA, and this is why we make the sample remover out of high concentrations of TCA and vitamin A. Now, I'm going to talk about this particular formulation in other videos, why it works really well, but it's not as if we just say it and we've got the proofs for it. We came out with this formulation due to a study that was performed in Japan using 90% glycolic acids, and it showed in that study that it had an extremely high success rate in removing Xanthelasma. We could not find it, was taken offline unfortunately, but we found it quickly enough, we found it on time enough so that we've been able to make the right formulation for Xanthelasma removal at home. So if you have Xanthelasma and you want to have it removed using a safe, tested product, use our Xanth remover. And you can buy it really easily on our website, xanthelasmaremoval.com. So this is all for this video. Should you want to know more about Xanthelasma removal, visit our website, xanthelasmaremoval.com. Another treatment very effective in removing Xanthelasma, which we may recommend, is the use of electrical arcing. Why do we recommend it? Thank goodness the use of electrical arcing in the aesthetic industry is non-regulated. Therefore, electrical arcing devices are quite easily available on the market, and they're quite easy to use, much more easily to use than normal lasers. However, the results are the same as lasers and at the fraction of the time. Say for example, with our Beauty Tech, you can actually find videos on how to remove Xanthelasma using the Beauty Tech electrical arcing device. And the other advantage of these devices is that since they're not as regulated as the lasers are, there is not as much training required in order to use them, and their cost is much lower than normal lasers. And you can actually see how this device operates, and also all the safety precautions that must be used with lasers are not required with these devices. Therefore, another very important way in order to treat and remove Xanthelasma is the use of electrical arcing. So, once again, when you select your treatment to have your Xanthelasma removed, remember that your Xanthelasma will very likely come back. So select the treatment that you think is best for you, because very likely you'll have to repeat it. You might as well select the one you like the first time around, because you'll have to repeat it. Because as we know, Xanthelasma keep recurring.